Namo Amida Butsu, 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 Namo Amida Butsu.
Mr. Hamada's father now lies on the verge of death in the first aid station in Hiroshima.
それから12日13日になっておふくろと当時おばあさんが生きとったんですがとぼとぼと歩いて
On the 13th, both my mother and my grandmother came to see my father. Then we heard there would be a very important announcement at 12 noon on the 15th. My father said that was the emperor's address. We waited, and at 12 noon the emperor spoke of having endured every kind of hardship, of having been patient, and now it was defeat and unconditional surrender. My father cried and then asked me to take him to the lavatory. There, it was as if everything in his body came out. On the early morning of the 16th, he asked my mother and me to leave him, because he said, "If you are here, I can't die." So we went into the next room. Then he sat still, raised both hands and shouted, "Long live the emperor," said "Amen," and died. It was a very dramatic and great end to his life. Amongst his last words that I still remember were, "Why did we fight such a silly war?"
それがちょうど夜中になって16日の朝方になりました。でおふくろと私とおりましたんですが、君らがおったら死なれないから向こうへおってくれ言うて、その時に私とおふくろは隣ちょっと離れて、それは不動の姿勢で、本当芝居がかったようですが、天皇陛下万歳、南無阿弥陀仏言うて亡くなりました。それは立派な最後だった。その前に私に言った言葉が忘れられるのですが、どうしてこういうバカな戦争をしたんだろうかと。
This is the New York State and surrounding area. These are the locations of the nuclear power reactors in operation or under construction in this area. If each was hit by a 1 megaton bomb, the combined radioactive fallout from the bombs and from the reactor cores would cover this area, causing radiation sickness in more than half the number of people living beneath these plumes. There would be similar maps for the Soviet Union, Britain, France, China, and for any other country with nuclear reactors singled out as targets.
The following is a list of things for you to take with you. Take all the food you can carry, particularly canned or dried food requiring little preparation. Take thermos jug or plastic bottles, bottle and can opener, eating utensils, clothing and bedding. Take work clothes, extra underclothing. Please take a flashlight, soap, toothbrush and toothpaste, shaving articles, sanitary napkins, detergents, towels and washcloths, toilet paper, and special medication, insulin, heart tablets or others. Take baby supplies including diapers, bottles and nipples, milk or formula, powder, rubber sheeting, etc. Tools for constructing a fallout shelter. Take a pickaxe, shovels, saw, hammer, nails and screws, a screwdriver and wrench, and do not forget your important papers, including your social security card, your deeds, your insurance policy, any stocks and bonds.
Meyibonise kuyini koko?
Athonje. Phela baba. Loko wa ku vo vulavula ni ku teka ni lisimu ni ku komba leswi ni nga xanisekisa swona ni ta yenja.
Teka na risimu.
Hikuva phela ni leswi a swi se suka.
It is us from Shidengele who experienced forced cotton growing. They stood over us and said, "Cultivate, cultivate." Those who had children on their backs were told to remove them and tie the child to a tree and to leave them alone. When payday came, you had to spend the previous night sleeping in the queue at the cotton market to get a miserable pay. Even when you had produced 10 bags of cotton, all you would receive was 50 escudos. We suffered.
Mina na hlasa ku salula matimaka ta freelemo hikuva lahaya loko ni suka kaya na ni kana na swi swa ku la masin'wini kwanga hi ku kampatsana ha khaya nyangani lahaya hi wa hi muka hi ya kakeka kaya.
Even though we have not yet reached this stage, we know that we will finally be able to distribute cash among ourselves here at the co-op, and through our own sweat we shall bring this about. What is bad is what we have just seen in these photographs from Hiroshima, because it is our brothers who have perished. They wish to live on. This is painful. For us, the problem is those bandits out there in the bush who are against collective production. We say, let them come and kill us. We shall never stop working collectively together. We have made our choice. Yes.
hikuva a tlakhile a kuma mana zazina a wansati wa musandikwe a nga ha hluphiwe asati wa musandikwe a ku a ku tirhiwe asati wa musandikwe a ku a va khululeke nyamuka hi dya swa nyuko hi dya swa ntamuweru hi khululekile hi lava betisiku takilemeta 15 hi khululekile ha xurha ha dya hi pfunile hi ntamo.
Mr. President, could you please join us in this song about my hometown, Packetville? And when I'll give you a cue, I would like you to scream, Yahoo! And we have lots of people here to help you out, okay? Tout le monde, j'aimerais ça quand je vais vous donner le cue, tout le monde va crier Yahoo! Vas-y, André! Packetville, Packetville, tu peux pas dormir ma belle. Packetville, Packetville, tu peux pas dormir ma belle.
This is the percentage equivalent of its annual military budget that Britain spends each year on international peacekeeping. 0.19%. Canada, 0.45%. The Soviet Union, 0.003%. Japan, 0.16%. Norway, 0.10%. Australia, 0.08%. The United States, 0.03% on international peacekeeping.
Bonsoir. M'avez-vous reconnu? Je suis Marc Garneau. Take me to your leaders, Earthman.
One question, Mark. Any form of life on other planets? Est-ce qu'il y a de la vie sur les autres planètes?
Shane, I think that the amount of money being spent in Australia on the military, on arms, I think the figure is about somewhere between $4,000 to $5,000 million, something like that, every year.
A lot of money, isn't it? Yeah. How many people could be helped with that amount of money in Africa? Not only in Africa either, in some of the poverty, which is very minor compared to Africa and all those places. But there is poverty even here in Australia that our own society could do something about with the money that they're putting into military, besides the untold millions in Africa and in New Guinea, close to home like that. It's unreal. A sorry looking boy, isn't he? He would be happy to have a biscuit like you just had and a glass of milk.
And his family would be happier even.
His family would be very happy if Australia would not spend $4,000 million on the arms race, but would spend at least some of it on giving food to them.
As a mother, I found it very hard to know exactly what to say to the children. You know, if you talk in terms of, look, this is going to happen, it's as though you leave them a heritage of despair, nothing, and it has happened.
I think we were all manipulated for years and years, all of us, because people do have the power to change things. People stopped the Vietnam War, but this was just too big, too enormous for people to understand, so it was left to the politicians to make all the decisions about all this.
We used to talk about it at school. We used to get angry with the politicians. How they so inhuman. They didn't seem to have any feelings. Just got so angry. How we could understand. They couldn't seem to understand.
I shall come directly to the point. And the point is to explain why the government's informed and principled view is that the mining and export of uranium and the presence here of the joint American-Australian defence facilities are integral to our pursuit of arms control and disarmament.
Bill Hayden, Australian Foreign Minister, speaking at the National Press Club.
I'm interested in reaching all those people who are concerned about these crucial issues and want to understand more about them. But we've got to be careful that the argument is not wasted by round after round of slogans and platitudes and hand-wringing. I respect arguments based on sincerity and morality, but frankly I loathe moralising. We can, in Australia, better than most countries, get the disarmament issue out of the streets and into the corridors of real power where the decisions will eventually be made. Opposing nuclear weapons in meetings or passing resolutions deploring them, and all the activities exemplified by the Palm Sunday marches are an important part of the answer. It's important to keep up the pressure. It's important to demonstrate that ordinary people everywhere are frightened and frustrated because so little progress seems to have been made towards disarmament despite all the promises. But it would be tragic if this activity gave the impression that disarmament is as uncomplicated as perhaps some people imply. It's a valuable and necessary part of the disarmament process. That's an undeniable and welcome fact. But it's not an alternative to the kind of policies being pursued by the Australian government. As John Stuart Mill pointed out, against a great evil, a small remedy does not produce a small result. It produces no result at all. On their own, these activities won't change a thing. That fact is also undeniable. If people are encouraged to think that all it takes for nations simply to declare themselves out of the nuclear weapons business is that, then we won't get anywhere. Disarmament is a tremendously complicated process. Every centimetre along the way has to be closely and minutely arranged. At no point can those involved be allowed to indulge in the poisonous brew of suspicion and fear which will stop the process stone dead. So nuclear weapons will be with us for some time yet. The fact is axiomatic, really.
Had you seen or heard that particular speech by Bill Hayden before?
No, not that one at all. Not that one in a press club. I have heard him speaking on different other programs, but not specifically on the nuclear war effort. But I'm just as confused after watching that one as if I never even heard him at all. Because the statement there, a few statements, he was saying that everything should be done to stop nuclear, and the next mouthful he's saying it's something we've got to live with and something we have to have. It's just, no wonder everybody's confused.
What do you feel about his statement that he loathes moralising?
Well, that was quite a hilarious statement, another mouthful of contradiction really, because he did say that he was willing to listen to moralistic attitudes, the attitudes on the moralism of the nuclear, on humans' behaviour, and the spiritualistic outlook. And then he says in the next mouthful that on the morals of nuclear, on the subject of nuclear, he's not interested whatsoever. So to me, it's just confusing. He says one thing in one mouthful and then contradicts himself the next time, or even in the same sentence. So it's not hard to understand why us people are so confused on why our government, and even like he was saying that the protest by the palm protest that was held recently, it's a very important part. It's an important part to get these governments off their backside, get the pressure to let them know how the people feel. But it's not making any effect on people like that, because they say, yeah, they listen and it's a very important part, and the next thing they say, well, nuclear is something we have to have and there's nothing you can do about it. So they've defeated their cause by saying that they're going to try and stop this build-up of nuclear weapons and back disarmament procedure. And next time they're saying that they can't do anything about it, it's something that's there and it's part of the future and modern living, and we have to live with it.
Actually, he stated that he was afraid and frustrated by nuclear war. It frightens and frustrates me to think we've got politicians like that they feel the marches and that they do their little bit towards it. And he agrees with the disarmament, but the way the government is going to do it is by helping and keeping the Americans in Australia, keeping their bases here.
On a wall in the local school in Stornoway are military posters describing modern army battle formations. In the racks of the school library are magazines of the British Armed Forces. On the cover of the educational magazine School Leaver, designed for students seeking careers, is a picture of the crew of a fighter-bomber aircraft. I asked the Lewis group what on earth was happening here. Callum replied by saying that unemployment has always been high in the islands.
Because it's always been high, there has been a military tradition in the islands going back a long way, but that military tradition is now being, to my mind, manipulated and distorted in very destructive ways, even more destructive ways than in the past.
With the compliance of the educational system here?
Yes. and the media. And it's one of the other things that have changed in the course of the last 5 years. Unemployment, despite the fact it's always been high here, has got even worse, with the result that any young person leaving school here has traditionally been faced with the virtual inevitability of having to leave the island in order to find work. Now there's no work elsewhere for them to go to. The Army, the Navy, or the Air Force, the armed forces, the services are one of the few remaining sources of employment. This has always been a prime recruiting ground, and that process is accelerating. It's becoming more and more obvious, more and more apparent.
People are getting caught up. I mean, they're getting terribly caught up because, I mean, out to the RAF unit, it's where the base has been built. I mean, I'm actually blacklisted. None of them are supposed to talk to me because I work for the local newspaper. And, I mean, I've been approached covertly by people who sort of psst from behind the door, you know, and the hand comes out and pulls you in. Look, I'm not really supposed to talk to you here, but I just sort of feel that, you know, the lads think you're actually not a bad lad at all, you know, but, you know, it's just that we're not supposed to talk to you, sort of thing. And, you know, you must realise that, I mean, I left school at 16, I hadn't had a job for 3 years, and somebody came along and said, do you want to be an electrician, you know, which is what I've always wanted to do. So yes, I took them up. I mean, I met one guy once from, he was a canoe instructor, and he quite blatantly said at the very first sign of trouble he was going to be straight off down the nearest river, you know. I mean, there's a lot of people, an awful lot of people in the forces, I think, who don't want to be in the forces, you know, and who've been offered no other option. I don't think it's just specifically this island. I think it's everywhere. They're getting caught up in this huge military monster, and the more people get caught up in it, the larger it gets, the more likely it is to be used.
And this is a completely unofficial guess because we have no official information, but this train coming through a community in the United States could be carrying possibly 200 warheads, 200 weapons, and if they are the D5 warhead for the new Trident II submarine, they could be 75 to 100 kilotons each, which means that this train steaming through an American community could be carrying 20 million tons of high explosive equivalent, 20 megatons. The security measures on this train have been getting tougher and tougher. There's been a considerable amount of protest in the local communities, and people try to block the train. They mount vigils on the train. And in many of the communities, they've now started the tactic of keeping the train rolling forward, even if there's someone sitting on the track. Now, as you can see, the train is actually parked momentarily right in the middle of the town of Centralia, with 20 megatons aboard, quite possibly even more, who knows. Well, have any of you ever seen this train before?
No, I've never seen it. I've heard about it, but I have never seen it actually. On the news clippings that I've seen, the only thing I've ever seen is people being carried away, and the officers. I've never seen the train. I've never heard the beating of the bell and the sort of a heartthrob sound that comes with that. I've never heard it that way or seen it that way.
Have you ever seen it before, Ron?
No, I've never seen it. I've never seen it like that before. I've heard of it, but I've never actually seen it, either in pictures or in person.
What about you, Ellen? Have you ever seen that white train before?
No, I've just seen something in the newspaper about it, but never seen this much film on it either. I didn't know it was that long.
I think it's scary. I think it's terrible, and I think it's really wrong that we don't have the kind of information we need to know that this is going through our cities. And it's such a, just seeing the train, seeing the numbers on there, MX, and knowing that the missiles or parts of the warheads are in there is so scary that I can't believe, I can see why it's been sort of covered up all this time that they haven't let us know about it, because I'm sure people would have protested against it before now. And I think the protest that's going on now is really played down in terms of, like, the footage that they show doesn't show the train, or it doesn't, nobody knows what it looks like because all they show you is the people being carried away. And again, it's sort of like they're trying to give you the idea that you're being protected against these crazy people who are protesting.
You mean that the shots?
I mean, on the news, yeah,
on the
evening
American
news.
media, you haven't seen very much footage, scenes of the actual train itself.
I don't remember seeing the actual train at all. I don't remember hearing it. I only remember them. I remember something, like this, I remember seeing the train tracks, but I don't remember seeing the train.
Oh, the shocking thing to me is that this is just going on behind our backs, so to speak. The government just does it. And I think it's a tragic thing. To just go ahead and carry all those nuclear warheads and not even tell anybody about it or anything like that. I'm really surprised to learn that.
でその辺が非常に問題でしてね、要するに知らされてるようで本当のところは知らされてない部分が結構ある。
It really is a problem. Even though we get the impression that we are informed, in reality we are not. When a computer chip fails and a missile explodes, as happened recently, then we have a glimpse of an enormous buildup of a system which is going on behind screens.
その程度のことしか実は我々知らされてないんで、そういう部分が実は裏にものすごくあるだろうと。例えばこの原爆の
Take, for example, these pictures of the French A-bomb tests. I think they should be seen much more by the public. I thought these tests were finished a long time ago. Are they still going on?
やっぱり今もあるんでしょうかね。
次から次と新しいのを開発するあれありますからやっぱりあるでしょうね。それともう一つ
I think they are still going on, since they are developing one new type of weapon after another.
もう全然知らさないでしょう。
The USSR never announced their tests. The USA only announced a half or one-third of theirs. The reason that we don't know much about these tests is that these countries don't want people to know about them. So they don't let us know, on purpose.
この間核実験をしたっていう報道を聞きましたけどね。 どこの国だったか。
Just recently, I heard that a nuclear test was conducted somewhere, though I don't remember the name of the country. Is this true?
じゃないんですか。
現在もすでに中国あたりでも核実験やってますよね。
I think China is also conducting nuclear tests. But unless you are much interested or concerned in this subject, you never find out about these tests.
要するによほど関心持ってる人かその筋の人 以外は聞き逃してしまうというようなことあるんじゃないでしょうかね。
知らされていないという話が先ほどから出てますけれども、
Is it not that we can only see a part of a great iceberg sticking out of the sea, and that we are aware that underneath the water lies a great hidden part? And I think we have great fear for such a fact.
I
used to have 4 or 5 people working for me. I was looking for them, since I wanted to help them if they were injured, or take care of their bodies if they were dead. Around here, there was a big water tank. A female student had died there with one of her arms reaching to that water tank. She had no clothes on. I looked inside the tank. Another 7 or 8 female students were floating in the water. They had their hair all burnt. 2 or 3 of these girls seemed to be alive because their hearts were still beating, faintly. I didn't know what to do, and I stamped the ground in my anger. Then I thought, yes, I could ask their names, addresses, and schools. At least I could inform their families. In a very loud voice, I said to them, "What is your name? What is your school?" No answer. I did it again and again. And then one of them said something. I put my ear to her mouth, and a few minutes later she said, faintly, "Mother, Mother." I couldn't help crying. She died one day after the A-bomb. How did she feel? Running away from the burning flames and jumping into this water tank. She must have wondered why her family didn't come to get her.
Mr. Shindo struggled against the bureaucracy of Hiroshima City for 5 years, between 1968 to 1972, struggled against red tape and hierarchy and a lack of interest and a lack of funding, until finally the authorities grudgingly permitted him to erect a small monument to the dead of Tenjin Machi, 5 years after making his application. An application to honor the dead on whose land the Hiroshima Peace Park, with all its offices and bureaucracy, is now constructed.
実際に日本がその不法な侵略戦争を起こすために朝鮮人は罪もなくしてこの日本に240万人もの大量の人々が連れてこられていた
In 1910, when Korea was annexed to Japan, there were only 2,000 or so Koreans in Japan. But by 1945, there were 2.4 million Koreans who had been taken to Japan, which is, I think, little known to the world. This is 2.4 million out of a total population then of 25 million.
人口数ですので、1910年朝鮮が日韓合併された当時はそんなにはいなかった。わずか2000名足らずであったと私は思います。しかしそれは最初の時期であって、やがて
As Japan developed its aggressive policies further, it needed to fill its labor shortages, and by the late 1930s, it had brought up to 1.5 million Koreans to Japan, without being told where they were going, to do forced labor in the worst possible conditions, for wages that were less than half those of the Japanese, working 11 or 12 hours a day at best, 18 in some cases, in dangerous and insanitary places, from the far north down to Okinawa, and under strong guard to prevent them escaping.
この日本に連れてきてどういうところでどういう労働をさせたのかと言いますと、北は当時樺太千島